Hey, everyone. After a lot of prayer and consideration, my team and I decided to push the future episodes of the Ministry of Freedom show off a week in order to post an encore playing of our post-election special from last Wednesday. We came to this decision because this is the most consequential election and politically transitional season of our lifetimes. I wanted you all to take pause and listen, and hopefully to re-listen to our thoughts. This is a heartfelt, intelligent, important, and fun conversation about some really tough subjects. Again, I ask you to listen rather than merely hear the words or have it on in the background of your life. And this is an episode that I'm asking you to share with a minimum of 3 people. Preferably, at least one of those 3 people will be someone who aligns differently than you do socially and politically. Settle in and please enjoy this encore presentation of the Ministry of Freedom show. Okay, we are officially rolling, Mike.
All right.
This is our first, what's going to feel like a live type of a show. And the next time we do something like this, we'll actually try to go through the channels and get it up live and do it live. This one is going to be, so it's about 10 o'clock Central Time. And I hope to have this thing up about 10 minutes after we're done recording. So there's not going to be any production, no intro or outro, and no editing or anything. It's just you and I raw talking about the election and our thoughts about that. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting. And we had planned to do this show. We even announced it on the show that came out yesterday. So regardless of the outcome, we were going to do this show.
Right. Hey, let me do a quick intro if you don't mind.
Okay, go.
Ministry of Freedom, election 2024.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And that's going to be our new intro, no matter what, for every episode.
Okay.
So we're going to call this, it's episode 56. We're going to call it the day after. Ali is not joining us because we have, some technical problems and issues with the email side of things and getting the website built and that transfer and all of those things done. So she's working with the team at Dillard Management during this taping, and I didn't want to delay the taping. And she is prioritizing getting that infrastructure set up rather than joining us. So we'll miss her, but because I would have loved to have heard her thoughts on this. She's out of town, so I haven't talked to her too much about it. But I'm sure she'll fill me in when she has some time.
Right on.
So like I said, we haven't done a show like this before. It's just raw, tape it, put it up, let's go. So that'll be kind of fun. So a few housekeeping things before we get rolling, okay?
Yep.
The usual stuff. Please follow me on the socials. Okay. I'm pretty active on Instagram, trying to build some followers there. X, I'm active on. So I'm at Real Jim Moats on those 2 platforms. The YouTube platform, we're trying to grow as well and experiment with different types of videos. Please subscribe to that channel. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of good stuff on there, informative stuff, funny stuff, political stuff, spiritual things, prayers, sermons. There's neat stuff on there for everybody. So please go check that out. Haven't mentioned this in a little while, but I did write a book. I think most people who follow the show know that, but there's new people coming every week. So I want to mention, I have a book out there. There's people that I know can be helped by the content of that book. And I do believe everyone will be entertained by it. Whether you know me or not, whether you're having struggles in life or not, you're going to at least be entertained. Some people will actually be encouraged and motivated to keep going through some tragic times, some trials in their lives, and maybe inspired to make change. So I'm passionate about the book, and it needs to get in people's hands. So here's my pitch. Everyone, go to Amazon, spend the $20 and buy a book for yourself, or pick one up for somebody else in your life. Now, if you're at a place in life where you think you need it, or you know somebody who needs it, and you're struggling, you cannot afford the $20 to do that, reach out to me. Our emails are a little jacked up, as I mentioned. Reach out to me on Instagram at Real Jim Moats. Send me a message or a YouTube comment, however you're comfortable. I'll get a book in your hand for nothing. It's that important. Giving a handful of books away to some people whose lives might be impacted that really can't afford it right now, and that could change their trajectory. That's not going to make or break me. I'm happy to do it. Just reach out and ask, okay? Scripture reference. We're going to start with a scripture. I found one that really spoke to my heart about all this season. You ready?
Yes, sir. What you got?
Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1-3. It's from a translation I like called the Voice translation. It reads, I urge you, live a life that is worthy of the calling that he, Jesus, has graciously extended to you. Be humble, be gentle, be patient, tolerate one another in an atmosphere thick with love, and make every effort to preserve the unity the Holy Spirit has already created, with peace binding you all together.
It's pretty good, man.
It is.
Seems very on topic today.
It is on topic. It's and I don't want to be flippant about that scripture because it's impactful. It means a lot, and we do need to exercise this, and especially me. And I'm going to get into some reasons why. This might look a little choppy because at times I'm going to be going to my phone, and sometimes we might be able to edit some of that out and the going back and forth. But this is just you and I being raw. So I'm going to go read some things here throughout the show. I'm going to start with, I did type some notes because there's some things I didn't get a lot of sleep. So I'm up last night kind of taking notes and watching the coverage and dozing off for a little bit and then waking back up. And so I have a lot of notes, and I know you have a lot of thoughts. So let's just unpack all of this stuff. I'll start with this. And I don't think this is hyperbole, but here we go. I believe this is the largest, most impactful, dramatic, and consequential political comeback in history. So here's why I say that. Go back to January 7th of 2021. So that's the day after January 6th, right?
Yep.
With the Capitol stuff and all of that. Trump was absolutely radioactive. People from both parties, no one wanted anything to do with this guy, did they?
That's correct, man.
Nothing. He's done. We're never going to hear from him again.
Yeah.
He was the most... He was divisive. But he had no camp.
Yeah.
Everybody was burying him.
Yeah.
And this guy just came back and achieved something spectacularly historic.
Yeah.
I know that he's got his flaws. We all do. He's got some narcissistic tendencies that probably don't lend to the most effective leadership from a unity perspective. But I will say this dude's courageous. He's got tenacity. He's a patriot. He loves this country. And I am super happy that he is going to get a second term. Thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm with you on all that. You're 100% right, man. The guy was, and it's easy to forget that. I just kind of laughed when you mentioned it. I forgot 4 years ago. Yeah, that dude was scorched earth. And I mean, with the Republican Party as well.
Yeah.
They were obviously looking at, and then in the 2022, he didn't poll, they lost ground in the House and the Senate, and anybody he supported didn't come through. And so he was still kind of toxic even 2 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
And that was they're talking about a red wave, and it didn't happen in 2022. And that was all of the talk the next day was, that the Trump effect is dead.
Yeah.
And here he is. So we're sitting today, 270 to win. I think they're showing a count of 275 or 76 right now.
So he's 277 on Fox. And there's still some states left that it looks
he's
like
go over 300, well over 300.
He'll be over 300. And that's kind of the mandate when you're looking at this electoral college. He's 5 million plus votes ahead in the popular vote right now.
So I was going to say, and he's going to win the popular vote. And so I've been listening to some very liberal, and it's crazy to hear the things they're saying. MSNBC, which obviously, you'd think that they would just have people on TV crying and telling us it's the end of the world, but they don't. They actually had a guy on there that was very well spoken today saying about how this is a mandate for the Democratic Party, and that football games, he used a football game analogy. I thought you'd like that. Yeah. He said, football games is important, and they're played between the 40-yard lines. He said, and we've had a Democratic Party that's trying to play up to the far left for far too long. And he said, and Trump come in here, and all he's doing is pitching to the middle. And he said, look, Kamala Harris has changed her stance on all reviews in the last month. He said, and she's all of a sudden been rushing towards the 50-yard line, trying to get away from these far left liberal policies. Yeah. He said, but it was too little, too late. He said, and he said, this proves again that the Democratic Party swung way too far left, and that we have to get to the center of the field. America wants to be in the middle. He said, whether it's slightly left or slightly right, he said, today's election shows that it's slightly right of center.
I totally agree with that. And that's one of my notes that I have as well. So you talk about a mandate. Yeah, this isn't just a victory. It's truly a mandate. We are witnesses to what I think is a fundamental realignment of American politics. I think when we look back on history, this will be the time when it shifted, and it needed to shift.
Yes.
And when we talk about a mandate, as we sit here and record right now, so the GOP, obviously the presidency is important, but also is going to control the Senate. And it's looking like there's a really good chance they're going to have control of the House. Now, beyond that, even at the state levels, there's a lot of state legislatures that picked up a lot of GOP seats, and that's important. Governorships. Yeah. The GOP had a great night with governor elections last night. The shift is, you're right, this is a center-right country.
Yeah.
And it needs to get back there.
And it can be center-left too. It just needs to be in the middle.
I would agree with that.
And the pendulum has swung so far, and that's what they always talk about, a pendulum, right? It
Yes.
can only go so far,
Yes.
and then it's got to come back. And
yeah.
I'm glad that we're finally, 2022 didn't show us that it was coming back yet, but
right.
Now the pendulum is swinging back down to the center.
I agree. I want to touch on the coalition of people that Trump's brought together from both parties. To me, it's the most impressive I've ever seen. So Tulsi Gabbard is a rock star, former Democrat. RFK Jr., former Democrat. Elon Musk, rock star. Then there's also the celebrity factor. So the Dana Whites of the world, the UFC guy, Joe Rogan, these types of people whose influence goes beyond what they're posting on Instagram and the records that they're selling. They actually have a voice. They actually understand that there are values that Americans hold dear. And it's not just Beyonce jumping up there and talking about, you're a bad person if you don't vote for a woman. Right. Or having Robert De Niro stumble around at a Philadelphia Eagles tailgate party trying to be a man of the people. Yeah. They're just tone deaf. Yeah. It's absolutely bizarre to me how their coalition just never changes. It's just the crazy celebrity Hollywood elite people that are either on the Epstein Island list or the Diddy crazy sex party list anyway. So this was probably a lot of their last opportunity to have influence, and they failed at it. So we'll see how all that pans out.
Dude, and you're talking about the people he brought together. So obviously Elon Musk and the RFK, the rock star you're talking about. But what's funny to me is the people whose names we don't know. Like Trump had these imams of the Muslim community come out and say we're voting, we're still going to support Donald Trump. I mean, obviously that's crazy. I mean, the Muslim was obviously in Barack Obama's freaking wheelhouse, not saying he was a Muslim, but saying he definitely had support, and he's been out there beating the drum. The young black male voters. So again, nameless people that we don't know, but all of a sudden the African-American men were moving towards Trump.
Yeah.
Tamara Bruno, who was on your show before, called me yesterday.
Oh.
And she said, Mike, I just called to tell you that I voted for Trump. And maybe I'm not supposed to say that, but
that's a big deal, man.
What was crazy is she said Kamala wasn't picked. She said, she was not elected by anybody to be on the ticket. Right. And she said, I just can't stomach the fact that this is not a candidate that the people got to choose. She said, it's not fair. And you wonder how many people are thinking about that. The current leader of Black Lives Matter voted for Trump yesterday.
Dude, come on.
And he said, the Democratic Party's done nothing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about, he brought these famous people that we all know, but people who you and I don't know their names, who have been the typical Democratic supporter, have all of a sudden crossed the line, dude. He's brought a bunch of people together.
Yeah.
And I don't know. To me, this election proves that there was fraud in 2020 more than anything. I mean, the fact that Trump's numbers aren't going to change that much in the popular vote. I mean, we're calling it a referendum and all this, but honestly, his numbers aren't going to change that much. Just Kamala is going to get 15 million less votes, but Trump's not getting them. They're just gone.
They're just not around. I saw so many graphs and things that I'm trying to make sense of, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's just not the day for that. But you're right. And my hope is that we can be done there. you know, I don't know how productive that talk is moving forward. First off, I agree, and you and I can continue to talk about it for 20 years. But I mean, for Trump and his team, let's move on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They won, and they did get a referendum. Whether, like I say, they're winning the popular vote, and like I say, that's what one of the things that guy on MSNBC said. Also, he's like, I'm just so glad he won the popular vote. He said, we can put this electoral college versus popular vote thing to rest. He said, Trump was elected by the American people, not by the electoral college. He said, and he's like, I'm just glad that this is going to bring, he said, hopefully some unity to our country, that people aren't going to be sitting here squabbling over he didn't even win.
Yeah, no, I think that, yeah, I watched some of that guy, by the way, because I'm on MSNBC and CNN. I'm jumping all over the place trying to get their perspective on stuff. And I just find it super interesting.
And I've been telling people for 2 weeks. So I watch a lot of liberal media, and I've been telling you over the last 2 weeks that they, just like they did when Biden after the debate, like all of a sudden I'm watching all the liberal media, and all of a sudden you could see, I think I even called you. I'm just like, dude, they're going to throw him overboard. They really are.
They are.
And you start watching a liberal, and you're seeing these cues. And I have a friend that he 100% believes that this election was unwinnable, that due to the steal, like he believed it was unwinnable. And I've been telling him for last week, I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, the liberals, for whatever reason, are accepting of Trump now. Now, whether, I mean, not to go down conspiracy theories, but whether they're getting ready to pull the plug out of our boat and sink the ship, and they would rather he was standing there holding the steering wheel than Kamala Harris. I mean, it's horrible to think about, but maybe we're getting ready. Maybe the American dollar no longer, we already see it moving away from being the world standard. Maybe they're getting ready to just completely demolish the American dollar, and they would rather that Trump was standing there holding the steering wheel. And
boy, maybe. So what you're saying is, so I watch a lot of football, and sometimes if you're down a lot at the end of the game and the other team is at the 2-yard line and they're just going to eat the clock, sometimes you'll tell your defense, how about we just let them score?
Yeah.
Did they just let us score?
I don't know, but I don't think Kamala Harris knew. It's weird to me that the liberal media has been putting up signs, and I've been telling people, like, look, if you scour the news, there's these signs. They're saying things like, well, and you saw Jeff Bezos not come out for Kamala. And the only reason he would do that was he knew there was a chance that Trump was going to win, and he didn't want to be on the wrong side of that. Then you're seeing these tech guys and these billionaires who have given, well, hell, Bezos give $50 million to Harris or more. Yeah. You're seeing these billionaires for the last 2 weeks picking up the phone and calling Donald Trump, hey, man, we had some trouble in the past.
Right. Yeah. But, you got a minute?
Yeah. Wanted to let you know that it's not that I don't like you, dude.
Don, what's up?
Yeah. We used to hang out a lot before, we kind of let this politics get in the way of our friendship, buddy.
Hey, bro, it's me, Mark Cuban. Click.
That call, De Niro and Cuban won't call. I'll give him that. But
so, yeah, I will say this. Cuban posted on X a really professionally worded and contrite and humble congratulations to Donald Trump, because he understands that, he's for him first.
Right.
And so that is what it is. So you mentioned something, and this is my next point. About black men and all of that, the different groups where Trump not necessarily won, but he sure increased his influence and he got way more votes with these certain demographics. So I wanted to talk to you about that. He increased his percentages with every demographic that they track, other than there's one. Do you know which one it is?
White females.
Yes, dude. It is white women. Yes.
So they're doing
right. Here, buckle up. Okay, buckle up. So I'm going to handle myself better than my flesh kind of would, for lack of a better term, to sound biblical, because I want to be kind, and I'm not trying to certainly punch down at people who might be hurting right now, but I'm gonna show you some Facebook stuff from this morning. Okay. All right. So I got to go round it all up. Give me a second.
Were you kind of disappointed in the Facebook this morning? Because I actually, how like when you go order a nice meal and you save like the steak for last?
Yeah.
I literally went through all my emails this morning.
I've never done that, by the way. I don't even know what that is. I just said, yeah, to move on. Oh. Who saves a steak?
What's that? Well, but anyway, I saved Facebook for last, and I was very disappointed. There wasn't as much crying on there as I was hoping for.
So let me go over some stuff from this morning. So I got on this morning, as soon as I got up, and I put, we're recording a bonus election recap of the Ministry of Freedom show at 10 a.m. Central Time. It'll be immediately released with no production or edits. Please check it out. Then I thought, I'm going to have a little fun. So I jumped down in the comments and I put, spoiler alert, the good guys won. Sorry, couldn't help myself. And then I put like a laughing emoji and an American flag, and I just kind of left it there. Then I went back on within a minute or two, and I made another comment. And I typed, the conversation we'll have on today's show will be way more tempered and thoughtful than my previous comment. I'm just trying to bring a little levity to an obviously tense time. There's a lot of work to do. Our nation is broken, and it'll take all of us to fix it. Tune in. So I thought that was an okay comment. So I'm not even going to out this lady, white female, like we were just talking. She's a wife of somebody that you and I both know. You can go to my Facebook comments, those of you who are interested, but that's not for me to say her name. But here's what she types. What an insensitive comment during a time where women's rights are being revoked and people are hurting. Lucky are you to not have to comfort a daughter this morning who sees her fate before her and has to fear if she cannot receive medical care should she need it.
Okay.
Hold on. We're not there yet. My response. Okay. Wishing your family well. I also followed up with another comment too, but I understand if you just want to be angry. By the way, exactly what medical care is she suddenly unable to receive? I would appreciate you educating me further. Thank you. And then crickets. Isn't that a ridiculous freaking comment from this lady?
So well, it's so crazy. So obviously she's afraid that her daughters are going to get pregnant and not be able to get the abortion that she so critically needs to go on with her life.
I mean, I'm not trying to read between the lines, but there it is.
But what's strange to me, so people are talking about, well, yeah, but I might have to travel to get the abortion now, because what if the state I live in isn't offering the medical care I need? And, you know, what if I have to, like the girl that died? And obviously, dude, obviously nobody wants anybody to die.
Sure.
Right? We don't want complications of a pregnancy to cause anyone's death. Always would choose the mother over the unborn baby in a life or death situation. But you always had to travel for an abortion, unless you lived next door to an abortion clinic. Even then you had to travel. You had to travel next door. But abortion clinics were not in every city on every block.
Correct.
If you wanted an abortion and you didn't happen to live next door to one, then you had to travel across town. If you didn't happen to live in a town that offered abortions, then you had to travel to a town that did. And sometimes that town might be across state lines. Sometimes you might have had to cross state lines because the closest city to where you live is across the state. That's the case. Abortions are allowed in 7 states up till the day you deliver. You can go to 7 states, and they talk about, well, no one would ever do that. And what if, they keep wanting to come up with this ridiculous stuff if the mother's life's in danger and she's bleeding out and all this. You know what? It's going to happen a lot more for, let's say, abortions past the 4th month than the mother's life's in danger, and she decided to go to the clinic. If your life's in danger, wouldn't you be at the hospital? But a lot more abortions are going to happen, not because the mother's life's in danger at month 5. Let's just use month 5 abortions. What's going to happen is he broke up with me, and I sent him a text, and I told him that I'm getting rid of his baby, and he didn't respond, and now I am. It's going to be uneducated people of all colors. It's going to be uneducated females that are pregnant that are going to decide that their boyfriend got caught. They caught him cheating. He broke up with them. Or, hey, I decided I can't do this alone. Late-term abortions are going to be a lot less medically involved, as I'm going to get even with that dude.
So Boy, that's a lot that you just unloaded there. I'll leave the audience to make their own opinions about that, and even about abortion as a whole, to be honest with you.
Right.
I will say this. Where I get frustrated is, and I want to say a couple of things. I've known this person for decades, not close to her or her husband anymore, really, but that's neither here nor there. If she's legitimately and her family's legitimately hurting and concerned and worried this morning, I don't like that. Yeah. I don't take joy in that. And I didn't laugh when I read her text.
Agreed.
What I felt was, I feel that she's been manipulated, as has her daughter and family, because they're convinced that, in the term she uses, she can't receive medical care should she need it. So I don't understand what that means, aside from the reproductive type of abortion. Yeah. There's no restrictions on birth control. Trump isn't going to enact any of that. You can go get birth control. Abortions are going to be the Roe v. Wade going away is just putting the abortion decision back to states. And a lot of that was on the ballot in a lot of states last night. It was on the ballot to a degree here in Nebraska. There was Initiative 434, and we voted yes for it, and that won. Yep. There was an Initiative 439. We voted no. That got turned down. So we were fortunate that where Allie and I voted last night, pretty much across the board, won. And in Florida, abortion was on the ballot, and they voted to protect life instead of widening the access to abortion in Florida. Which, here's another interesting dynamic: is a lot of people voted for Trump, and they. What am I trying to say?
There were states that were putting it into the Constitution, making abortions available in their state, that and making it a constitutional amendment to the state. Yeah. And there were states that passed that, and the people pulled the lever for Trump.
There you go. Thank you for
adding abortion to their constitution.
Thank you for pulling that out of my mouth. Yeah. So what I would say to this person and anyone else who's hurting is, and I was serious about my question, I need to be further educated. If all of a sudden there are millions of women running around afraid they can't get medical care. So if they get a pneumonia, can they not go to the doctor and get, I mean, if I'm being a little flippant, but if they get in a car accident, is the ambulance going to come? No. What are we really talking about here? Let's get to let's not use these semantics about she's concerned she can't get medical care. And I want to know.
Not to be a piler on or a jerk, but to answer will the ambulance come if they get in an accident? If they live in a city like New Orleans that's been run by Democrats for 120 years, the ambulance probably isn't coming because of funding issues.
Yeah, you're right. But I do
depends on where they live. If they live in a nice Republican area, they probably will get health care.
And these people live in the suburbs of our community and have access to plenty of good medical care. Yeah. But there are people, if people are hurting to this degree, we certainly shouldn't be jumping up and down and celebrating. And the text that I read or the messages that I posted earlier that I read to you, the one was a little bit of a joke and being flippant and the good guys won, but I followed that up with something more tempered. And I'm not trying to be a jerk and be out there and rub it in people's faces, because although the country is shifting more towards where I line up politically and socially, that doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. And it doesn't mean that all my ideas are right, but we need to be able to have conversation. And this is just dealing in emotion and hyperbole, rather than let's talk about what your real concerns are. And if there's concerns I'm not aware of, and people's daughters are going without care, I have a 9-year-old girl in my family now that I'm caring for, that I'm going to soon be a stepdad to. Yeah. I take this stuff very seriously, and that's why I voted how I did. Allie's the best mom I've ever been around in my life, and Allie voted to protect life and to put Trump and other Republicans in office. And she loves her daughter dearly, and she doesn't fear that she can't get health care. Right. So I just like to know where that person's coming from. Now, I also want to read you another message that I got, because there's something from the other side of the aisle, so to speak. Okay. I'm going to read you a text I got. You know our man, Chris King?
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris King and his wife Leslie and his sister Misty and his mom, they've got this travel agency, and they started a new business called Tipsy Sisters. It's like a mobile bar thing. So he sends me this message. Leslie and I are in the garage working on the trailer with the election on our phones until 2 a.m. and watching Trump win! Exclamation point. Now we have a chance to live in an economy that can support our businesses and ambitions. Yes! Exclamation point.
Yeah.
And I think I believe that's true. I think that this is a guy that's like, look, we are go-getters. We just want opportunity to go out there and make it happen for ourselves. And I think that people that are entrepreneurial largely feel that way today. Is that the sentiment that you feel?
It is. And like I say, I do just have this little bit of doom and gloom, like I said, about the boat sinking and they decided to put him at the rudder. Right?
Sure.
I'm afraid that something bad is getting ready to happen with the American dollar and being removed as the world's center of trade.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that Trump in his last time that he was in office, obviously COVID, don't count COVID. I mean, that doesn't matter.
Agreed.
But he hadn't curtailed government spending when he got in, like he'd said he was going to. I'm kind of afraid that our deficit is getting out of control. And like I say, there's a bad, and Elon Musk made that statement that, look, there's going to have to be some pain in the American economy if we're going to get this deficit under control. So, like I say, I'm hopefully optimistic.
Yeah, me too. So let's move on. I think, like I said, America, certainly center-right country. I think last night's election, the mandate proved it. Americans, I think, stood up and said loudly, we're done with this woke stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done with the craziness and the men and women's sports and the tampons in the boys' bathrooms in middle schools. We're done with pornographic books in elementary schools. We're done with trans surgeries and puberty blockers for 8-year-olds. We're done with this nonsense. We're done with the pronouns. We're done with living that life and walking on eggshells and being afraid to stand up and say what we believe because we're going to be shunned by the left. Right. People are hurting. There's people who are broke that are working 2 and 3 jobs. They're paycheck to paycheck. Something like 60% of people in this country live paycheck to paycheck, yet wages are supposed to be so high. Come on. It's a freaking joke. They understand that
wages have not kept up with inflation.
Correct.
All of this mad government spending, and that is the hope. Even if there is a painful moment for America here, my hope is that Elon and RFK get in there and they do away with a bunch of this government red tape.
Agreed.
And that ties back into the Roe versus Wade thing as well. I don't want the government in my life.
Yes, less government, please.
Government in my life. So yes, please, let's get rid of the IRS. Let's get rid of
the Department of Education.
Yes. Let's get
rid
of things that are unnecessary. And
yes.
Like Elon did with Twitter, he got rid of 95% staff. Has your Twitter not came on when you wanted to use it?
Works better than ever.
Right. With 95% of the
I agree. A lot of money is wasted in inefficiencies, and those are the things that conservatives tend to want to fix because they believe in a smaller government. So I'm with you on that.
Bringing things to the state level, like abortion, bringing things to the state level,
like education,
everything needs to be. We need the Fed out of our life, and so people should be celebrating the Roe v. Wade because now their vote has way more meaning. If you're voting in Iowa instead of voting on the federal. Yep. Your vote has way more meaning in what you want your state to do with your tax dollars and how you want their intervention in your life.
And you can hold your local elected officials to a higher account than you can a senator.
Absolutely. I can get a state assemblyman on the phone. I promise you. By the end of today, I could have a state assemblyman on the phone.
Bro, we could be at 712 over in Council Bluffs, a plug for a little restaurant over there, meeting with our state representative by 1 o'clock.
Yes.
And all we have to do is buy the lunch and bring a check.
Yes, that gives true say to our vote.
Yes, it cares.
And that's all that the Roe v. Wade did was brought your vote has meaning now. And like I said, all these states yesterday added constitutional amendments that abortion is your right, your God-given right, and it's in the state constitution now.
Okay.
You were never getting an amendment to the United States of America Constitution.
Agreed.
That was never going to happen.
Agreed. Remember I told you that I'm working on Allie's working on some internet issues and stuff.
Yep.
I need to send her something real quick. So
Okay.
you just continue on while I'm doing this.
Absolutely. Yep. I can probably go on some other sort of crazy.
It's just going to take me a second. Hold on.
All right.
Just give me a minute, audience. Sorry. Okay. Well, I'll probably have to do that a couple more times, but
that's okay. So kind of, and I mentioned this obviously yesterday with our 1-year anniversary show, Jim's 1 year.
Yeah.
Yesterday. Hopefully everybody watched that. If you haven't, go back and check it out. One of the things that I discussed a little bit was that how 4 years ago today, I was headed to work in the morning, living in the Garden District of New Orleans, and there was people still out on the streets, and whites was wrote on the monument right there, and the windows were broke out of businesses. Windows broke out of cars all up and down the street there on St. Charles Avenue in New Orleans.
Sure.
And by the way, these weren't Trump owner cars or Trump voter cars. They were cars. They
just
were
cars.
They were cars in downtown New Orleans at 70% Democratic. So it probably 7 of 10 car windows probably were the Democratic voters' cars.
More than likely. Yep. Hurting their own.
And 7 of 10 business windows broke out were probably a Democratic voter's business window broke out.
Totally agree.
But and then for several days, I didn't go out. Like there's a little gas station I would frequent. I wouldn't go out like after dark, and it gets dark early now, like 8 o'clock at night. I wasn't going up to the gas station there next to General Lee Monument because I didn't want to get into an altercation.
Right.
Have you saw anything about that this time? Now, have any of the Democratic, have you seen any of the BLM, any of the business destroying, any of that gone on?
Let me speak to that. No, and I'm pleasantly surprised because my prediction was that we were going to see unrest as soon as last evening. And thank God we haven't. And I hope that calm prevails and we get back to the business of being America. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
And one other thing that I just wanted to touch on when I was thinking about that, and I was giving that some thought in my heart this morning about, if I would have really wanted to press the issue 8 years ago, I would have needed to take a firearm with me, and I could still carry a firearm at that point.
Yeah.
And then, possibly end up in a Kyle Ritterbush situation, where I have to gun down a couple of dudes that are attacking me for being a white male in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And obviously I avoided that. I stayed home. I didn't go out. I changed my life. And if I would have got into a confrontation like that, obviously they'd be like, well, what was he doing out anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I got me to thinking about January 6th then, because this was the battle cry, right? Of Trump bad, about January 6th.
Yeah.
I just got to thinking about if this was truly an attempt to overthrow our government and to take the Capitol by force.
Wouldn't they have guns?
Where was the guns?
Right.
They're all gun owners. I bet you 90% of the people there were gun owners.
100% of the people that were there were gun owners.
When they stormed the Capitol, why didn't they have their firearms?
Yeah. You think they are all going, oh, shoot.
I mean, if you were taking over the Capitol, you would assume you're going to get some resistance from some people who are armed, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So during the plan, if you and I were planning that right now, we would plan that we were going to have to take out some armed people.
Correct.
So we would.
It's a good point, man.
It's so crazy.
It's a good point.
I just thought of that this morning. Why didn't they bring guns? If this was truly a takeover.
It's a good point. I want to speak to that a little bit when you talked about being, putting yourself in certain situations. I was at a men's gathering the other night, and a guy, these guys know I'm a pro Second Amendment guy, and a lot of times I have a weapon on me, and legally so. And so this kind of, I don't want to say anti-gun guy, but just doesn't really own them, never really messed with them. And so he's talking to me, he says, so if things get really crazy the day after the election and even down in the old market, and there's, like it was in 2020, and there's some riots and there's this and that, will you be down there? I said, absolutely not. No. I said, my number one goal here, even though I carry a firearm, is I don't want confrontation in any way, shape, or form. If I find myself and I'm out living life And I'm not going to cower in fear, but I'm not going to go to those areas that I think could be hotbeds. But let's say I'm at Target down the street and something pops off. You know, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that if there's people that need to be protected, that changes the thing. But if somebody is coming after me confrontationally, you know, the first thing I'm going to do, Mike, I'm going to try to run.
Yeah.
I want to get away. I don't want to fight. I don't want to shoot somebody. There's no good that's coming from any of it. The best case scenario is I'm going to win, quote unquote, and be in court and spend $500,000.
Yeah.
I don't want any part of it. And then he said, well, if you ever found yourself in a situation like that, can't you just pull out your gun and try to wound them? I looked at him and I said, bro, I want you to pay really close attention to what I'm going to say. The only way that you should ever have a firearm is if you have enough knowledge, training, and respect to understand that its purpose is for one thing. Do you know what that purpose is? I said to him. He looks at me. I said, it's to take a life. That's its only purpose. So if you think a gun could be pulled out and used to wound somebody, you should never be around guns.
Yeah.
It's a killing tool. And that's the only reason it should be ever pulled out. And that's why I hope I never have to pull it out.
And there's arteries in arms, there's arteries in legs.
I said, have you ever shot a handgun, bro?
15 seconds, shot in the leg.
Yeah. When your heart rate's at a 180 and you're shaking with fear, you're gonna, hey, I'm gonna just wing them. Come on. Yeah. These are people that don't get it. But here's what you should do. Stay out of confrontations. Don't be an ego guy, okay? Don't get in fights. If somebody's talking crap to you or messing with you in traffic and flipping you off, get the hell away from them. Don't pull over and fight them. Get out of confrontation. And if you're going to be a responsible gun owner and you're going to carry a weapon in public, understand what it's for and the responsibility that comes with it. This is way off of a political talk, but Second Amendment people listen to this show, a lot of them, and they need to hear that message because there might be one or two that don't quite get that. And I want to make sure that they do. Because that's hugely important. Avoid confrontation. Get trained up in how to not use your weapon because it's just as important as being trained up in how to use it.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Okay. I was thinking about the Democrats. There are liberal policies, and you're going to ask me to list some, and right now in the glow of the victory, I can't. But there's decent liberal policies, okay? Not certainly open borders and all this woke crap, none of that kind of stuff, but the Democrats, liberalism has its place in our society, and I think the two-party system makes us great. I hope that they use this as a way to reposition themselves.
Yeah.
Get rid of the crazy. Get back to their traditional liberal values and what that used to mean, because that's what's going to make our country better. And I think that they will do that. I think there are solid leaders. The people that have ran away from them, perhaps they get some of them back. I don't mind a world where the Tulsi Gabbards and the RFK Juniors of the world can go back and be welcomed with open arms to a Democratic Party that's going to say, hey, you know what? We screwed up. We ostracized you. We got away from our traditional values. We need you back on our side because our side is the side of America, even though there's two parties. So I hope that the liberals that might listen to the show, the three of them, would hear that and take it to heart. I wanted to get your opinion here. I think I already know it, so it might be rhetorical, but as I'm looking at things last night, I don't know that this sways the whole election, but I think Kamala made a huge strategic error picking that Walz guy over Josh Shapiro. She lost Pennsylvania last night. She decided to not have Josh Shapiro, the Pennsylvania governor, on her ticket, who's way more qualified, way more charismatic, has a way better record, isn't as far left, and could have delivered her a key battleground state. And the reason she didn't pick him is why, Mike?
I honestly don't know.
I know.
Okay.
He's Jewish. And her party won't allow for that. The crazies on the way left.
I did know that. Nice. Yeah. Okay.
They won't allow for it, bro. That's why she didn't pick him. They are so anti-Semitic over there that they were willing to roll the dice, and they ended up losing big because of it.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous.
Afraid of losing the Muslim vote.
Man.
They lost anyway. Kind of lost a large portion of it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, yeah. What about the stock market?
No matter what. I mean, even if you're not going to take the Pennsylvania guy, there's got to be better fish in the sea out there.
Agreed. So stock market, check that out today.
Yep.
It's doing pretty well.
Record highs. The night went on last night. I kept checking the betting odds, and
dude, when you sent me that, I knew it was done dealing.
Yeah, they just kept going higher and higher for Trump. The DJT stock was climbing all night, and then the betting odds just kept moving further and further to the right.
Yeah. So also, it's important to understand that things aren't going to change tomorrow. Trump's not in office.
No.
And when he gets in office in January, it's not going to change immediately. There can be some executive orders and some things that he might change. And I think the border can be shored up, and we can, frack and drill and all those kinds of things. But this is going to be a slow process, and it's going to take patience, and it's going to take work. And I hope that Trump understands that this isn't a time for retaliation. This is a time to be humble. Yeah. This is a time to live out that scripture. I'm going to go back and pull that up again, because I'm going to read that scripture again as we finish up, okay?
All right.
I urge you, and this, Paul could be talking to President Trump for as far as I'm concerned as he's writing this. Paul writes, I urge you, live a life worthy of your calling. That's a big line right there. President of the United States, a pretty huge calling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Live a life worthy of that calling. Jesus has graciously extended that to you. Be humble, be gentle, be patient. Tolerate one another. We have to tolerate each other in this country, don't we?
Yeah.
And let's do it in an atmosphere thick with love. That's the key. And as I was reading that message from that lady about her daughter, I want to have love for her and her family. And I want to care for them. And I want to know what the issues are. And don't just come at me and tell me I'm this or I'm that, or I don't care. Because I do care. And most people that comment to me don't know me.
Yeah.
But we need to make every effort to preserve the unity that Holy Spirit's created. And then peace should bind us together. So my prayer is going to be today, and continue to be, that our nation is going to come together in unity. We're going to operate in humility. We're going to be gentle. We're going to be patient. We're going to tolerate each other. We're going to lift each other up. We're going to encourage each other. And we need to remember that the one team that matters is the American team. It's time to bring our country back to prominence. It's time to bring our country back to being what we were designed to be. And I think that this is the start of something that could be special, but it also could end up being really, really bad, because it comes down to leadership.
Yeah.
If the leadership is solid and operates in humility, then I think we have an opportunity here to take some real ground in the world. And I think when America is strong, the world's a better place. Do you have any final thoughts?
I do. I got a couple.
Go.
So you'll remember when Trump got elected the last time, he actually had propositioned himself as the deal maker. And you remember that he actually sat down with Schumer and Pelosi without any Republicans present.
I do.
And actually had them to the White House and wanted to start doing some bartering, knowing that the Republicans would go along with whatever deals he clapped.
Yeah.
And they refused to give him anything.
Yep.
Pelosi and Schumer sat there and they said, hey, Donald, we appreciate it, but we can't start giving you any wins. Yeah. We just can't. And we're sorry. I hope that the Democratic Party will actually be open to that more this time. I hope that they'll allow themselves to do what's best for the country, rather than just saying we can't give Trump any wins here during his presidency. Yeah. I hope they'll just look at it. This is his final term, no matter what. Yeah. And let's do what's best for the country.
Yeah. Good.
I had one question for you also. Who do you think is one of the happiest people in the country today that Trump won last night?
Joseph Biden.
Absolutely. Joseph Biden.
He's the happiest,
so
bro.
Thrilled today.
He just sewed up his legacy.
Yep. Did you see that Jill Biden wore a bright red sport coat to vote
yesterday?
Yes.
Go Jill Biden.
Red jacket.
Turns out I'm a fan.
To vote yesterday. Dude,
right.
Joe Biden, and you saw when they were at the funeral and Biden went up and tried to whisper to Obama that, and they read his lips and they said, that he said, she's not a good candidate, and I could have had this, I could have won this,
yep.
and Obama just kind of gave him the nod off, like, this isn't the time and place, Joe. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about the decisions
yep.
that have been made.
That's right.
I'm not going to put my hand on the knife in your back that I threw at you.
That's right.
But
no, yeah. Mike, that's such a good word, man.
Yeah, dude, it's so crazy. Yeah,
I'm going to make my prediction. You ready for a prediction?
Well, yep.
So my prediction was Michelle Obama was going to be on this ticket.
Right.
That didn't pan out.
Yep.
So it's okay. Here's my prediction. So, and the campaign season is going to start sooner than we think.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we're about a year away, and it's going to be in full swing again for 2028, right?
Yep.
It's going to be Vance and Tulsi Gabbard, if she stays with the Republicans, on a very centrist ticket.
That'd be awesome.
Against Michelle Obama and whatever flunky they decide to throw with her.
I think Gavin Newsom's coming up.
Oh, you're probably right. I'm holding on to this Michelle Obama thing so tight because I got to be right.
I think Gavin's coming, and I mean, it could be some other people too, but I think they'll leave Michelle on the sideline. I honestly think that they've got enough up and comers that
you're probably right. You're probably right. I'm being more facetious.
I think they'll bring a good ticket, and I hope Vance gets a lot of camera time over the next 4 years because that was one of the other things that was mentioned to me yesterday was that the people that have tuned into him with Rogan, like, wow, what a smart guy.
Yeah. No, he's a rock star. There's no doubt about it. He's a rock star. I could also see that the Democrats might end up going celebrity for their person. Yeah. You know, like, and I'm not even being weird here, but like The Rock or somebody like that.
Whatever strong Democrat gets a show in the next 12 months.
Yep.
That now has a show called whatever, Celebrity Encounters, or
that's it. That's right.
It can't be Celebrity Apprentice, but it can definitely be
something like that.
Yeah, The Accomplice.
Yeah, they'll call it Celebrity Intern. We're like, what? This seems familiar.
Yeah. So whoever
20 people compete for a job that doesn't pay them anything.
Yeah. That will be their next party leader.
This couldn't have worked out any better from a political perspective for either of us, from my family.
We know we have closure today. When we planned this episode, we were having it no matter what.
Yeah.
But honestly, neither one of us believed that it would be a done deal by 10 a.m. today. No. This is the earliest that this has went off in quite some time. So.
Yeah. I think that there's sentiment from both sides that the election was overwhelmingly fair and well done. And I feel a little bit like, and I would have felt this if it would have gone the other way with the same type of flow and statistics and everything. At least I'm feeling like I have a little more faith, and I'm putting some stock in our democracy more than I had. And it's not just because Trump won.
Yeah.
But it seems like from things I'm hearing on the competing networks, the MSNBCs and CNN and things, that there is some concession. There's talking about this election was fair. This feels really good to me. And I hope we can build upon it. And now it's just time to, if we have the game board set up to where we think we can win, now it's time for our responsibility. And that responsibility is personal excellence. It doesn't matter who's in office. It comes down to how do we handle our lives, our physicality, our faith, our families, and our wealth. And what are we going to do with it? And how are we going to live our lives?
Right. So, I would like to real quick throw out the fact that Kamala Fort and the fact that she hasn't came out and conceded yet at 11 a.m. the day after, when the election's been called for 12 hours, is miserable. She's a horrible person. I
totally agree with that. And we're going to end on that note. Speaking of unity, we're going to end with she's a horrible person.
She's a horrible person.
Mike, I appreciate
and a worse candidate.
That's right. Thank you for doing this with me. I'm going to sit here and get this thing up. It's going to be out to the public here in about 10 minutes. So it's to be the only time we've done that. Then also, I want to start talking about doing a live. We're going to do a live episode. Maybe we'll figure out how to take some phone calls or do something cool like that. As Allie's figuring out this technology more and more, and our team at Dillard Management is coming together with us, we're going to do some cool stuff. So,
hey, I would one more thing in close.
Yeah.
If anybody's watching this, that their life is in danger due to the Roe versus Wade, and they need gas money to get an emergency abortion, reach out. I will send you the money to get the medical care that you need across the state line.
Did you guys hear that? You reach out to the show. I'll put you in touch with Mike directly, so you don't ever have to bring this up to me.
Yeah, free money is available to people that are in financial need of
whose
saving
lives
your
are in
child's
danger.
life.
Yes, Mike.
If $100 is standing in the way of saving your child's life, seriously, reach out to me. I will get you the gas money immediately. I do Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Facebook Pay, Google Pay. Just let me know how I can get you this money.
You're almost like a saint.
I am.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, buddy. See you later.